so today I'm gonna be doing my cinnamon rolls recipe. Alright, so first we're gonna do, and by the way, this recipe makes 12, so you can double it, half it if you want. But we're gonna start with about 4 to 4.5 cups of flour. So we're gonna start with 4 for right now. If we need to add a little bit later, then we'll do that. All right. I'm gonna do half a teaspoon of salt. There we go. Alrighty, and we're gonna do half a cup of sugar. I use cane sugar, but you can use regular, bleached sugar as well. Give those a quick mix. Make sure everything's incorporated. This also helps get some of the lumps out so your dough isn't lumpy. Alright. And in a separate bowl, I should have did this first, but in a separate bowl you should have, what is this? 1 cup of lukewarm water. Make sure it's not cold, make sure it's not too hot. We're going to be adding our yeast to that. So if your water is too hot, it will actually kill the yeast and your dough will not rise. So that's I'm just using instant yeast. I don't know if you guys can see it. Fleischmann's. It comes with 2 1/4 tablespoon of yeast. So if you're using fresh yeast, then go ahead and do that. But you got just 1 packet here. You're going to add it to the lukewarm water. Make sure all that's in there. And you can add just a sprinkle of sugar in there. The sugar feeds the yeast, so that way it can bloom properly. So we're just gonna give that a quick mix. You can let it sit for a while until it starts to bubble up just a bit. That's the process of blooming. But it's instant yeast, so we don't have to let it sit for too long. So we're gonna set that aside. Alrighty, so you got this. Then we're gonna take about a 1/3 cup of butter, and that's about 5 tablespoons of butter. If you don't have like the stick butter, you can do that. And what we're gonna do is make sure it's softened as well. So we're gonna take that and we're going to actually press it into our flour. If you've ever made bread before, or biscuits, this is the same step. Now I might take it, you just take the butter and you just press it into the flour. Make sure it's all in there until they're about little pea-sized pieces. Should feel just a tad, it should feel like sandy, almost like you can almost mold it, but not too wet. Alright, then you're gonna make a little well. Alright, and we're gonna add two whole eggs and 1 egg yolk. Okay, be careful not to get the shell in there. 2 whole eggs. And then 1 egg yolk. So how I usually do it, just crack it. Alright. Just take your hands and let the whites just fall through. I like this way more, so because you can control the yolk and make sure it doesn't break and bleed into the egg white. Here we go. To take our yeast water mixture and we're going to add it. Get all that in there. You're going to add it to the bowl, and then we're just going to start mixing. So if you have the stand mixer, this is the part that makes it easy. You just pretty much put everything in your mixer in the same order that we just did, and now you can just pretty much start your machine and just let it go. But I'm doing it by hand. Any of you guys doing it by hand, just slowly start to mix. You want to get those yolks, eggs broken up in there, and then slowly start to mix in the flour with the liquid, and it should start to come together. It's starting to come together. If you feel like it's still a little wet, this is, then we can go ahead and start sprinkling in some more flour. Alright, so after your dough comes together, you got it here, you can just lightly sprinkle, lightly flour a work surface. Alright. And pull your dough out. And we're gonna knead it maybe for about a minute, 30 seconds, something, just to make sure it's all together. Alrighty, and the next thing that you want to do is take a large bowl. You can use the one that you just used to mix it. Just go ahead and wash it out, and go ahead and lightly grease the bowl. And just go ahead and take your dough, go ahead and plop it on in there. I like to give it a light spray. Alrighty, so after you get it in the bowl, you're just gonna cover it in plastic wrap, or you can use a damp kitchen towel, just anything to keep the moisture in there. And you're gonna want to set this in a warm spot in your kitchen. You don't want it to be hot, because then obviously that'll start cooking the dough, but you just want it about 45 minutes to an hour. So it's been about 45 minutes, maybe an hour now. As you can see, the dough has doubled in size. Let's see here. So we're gonna punch the dough down, punch the air out of it. Okay. Bring it back. Alright, and we're gonna let that rest. We're gonna cover that back up and let that rest about another hour, until it 45 minutes to an hour, until it doubles again. Alrighty, so it's been an hour. We let it rise. So now we're gonna punch the dough down again. It's gotten pretty sticky. I need some more flour. Okay. You're gonna take some flour. Make sure you have a clean work surface. I would use a cutting board, but mine isn't as big as I would like, so counter's fine. Just make sure you wipe it down. So we're gonna get this together here. Your dough should be fairly soft, very springy by the time it's done. Alright, and now we're gonna start rolling our dough out. Okay. I don't have a rolling pin right now, so I'm just using a wine bottle. Go. Take flour. Alright, we're gonna start rolling this dough out. Try to keep it in as much of a rectangle shape as possible, since that's how we're going to be rolling the cinnamon rolls. Right, and you're going to roll this out to about 27 inches long. A separate bowl, you want to start making your filling mix. So that's going to be it's going to be 2 cups of sugar, so we're going to split it in half. It's going to be half a cup of your regular sugar. So that can be, like me, I'm using the cane sugar. Or the white sugar if you're using that. So you're going to use half a cup of that. And then you're also going to do half a cup of brown sugar. Make sure it's packed. And some more brown sugar. Then you're going to do 2 tablespoons of nutmeg. Okay. Well, actually, let's do 1.5 tablespoons. 1.5 tablespoons of nutmeg. I mean cinnamon. Lord have mercy. 1.5 tablespoons of cinnamon. Alrighty, and then you're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Actually, let's make it 1/8, because about 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. And 1/8 teaspoon of clove. There we go. And we're just gonna mix that all up together. So that's what your mixture should look like. Smells incredible. After you mix all of your filling, you're going to need to spread about 4 tablespoons worth of butter over the dough. Okay. Next, you're going to spread your cinnamon sugar mixture. Use all of it, okay? Alrighty, for the next step, we're going to start rolling the cinnamon roll. So what you want to do, actually, I like to do is lightly grease my fingers so that way the dough doesn't stick. Okay. And I'm gonna start down here, and you want to roll tight. Okay. Alright, good tight roll. so we can see the swirl when we cut it. Rolling super tight so it stays together. We get a nice swirl on there. There we go. And now we're going to take, I'd say, a 12 by 9 pan, and we're gonna lightly grease that. There we go. All right, so you got the grease pan. Now we gotta start making our cuts to make our marks. I try not to cut first, just to make sure I'm getting everything even. Okay, because we're gonna make 12 out of these, so here's about the half mark. Okay. All right, and we're gonna cut these into about 2-inch. Should be like about 2 fingers. There. Okay. There you go. Just go ahead and start making your cuts. Want to work quick because you want to get that swirl placed in your pan. Alrighty, so after you make all of your cuts, this is what they should look like. I'll try and pull one of these up here. They should be about this thick, okay? What we're gonna do with this is cover this in plastic wrap, and we're gonna let it rest for another 30 to 45 minutes before we start baking, okay? So we're gonna do that and let them double in size just about. So it's been about 30 to 45 minutes. Them double. So right now we're just going to put them in the oven. You're going to bake them at 375 for about 15 to 25 minutes or until they're golden brown. While those are in the oven, we're going to make our icing really quick. So we have about 1 cup of powdered sugar. You're going to do a good about heaping tablespoon of cream cheese. You're going to do half a tablespoon of vanilla extract. And we're going to start with about a tablespoon of milk. I'm just using almond milk. Okay. Gonna start mixing that. Right. 2 tablespoons. Alright, so you just mix that all up. I added another tablespoon of the cream cheese. And so your icing should look like this. There you go. Just let that sit, and then we'll be back when the cinnamon rolls come out the oven. Alrighty, so once you got all of your stuff out of the oven, you should let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then go ahead